Okay, this is Trophy Gold, the Rime Palace. That's R-I-M-E, rhyme as in like frost. I want to begin by having everybody who's here introduce themselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for us to know about you, your experience with the game, anything really. I'll start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I'm the publisher of Trophy, and and I'm really excited to run this particular incursion. I've run it one time for playtest. This is the first sort of like non-playtest run of it I've done, so this should be pretty fun. Drew.
Hi, I'm Drew. I use he, him, and living in a bit of a wintry incursion here myself right now. I'm excited to get to be a little more proactive with it.
Fabulous, thank you. Brian.
Hey, I'm Brian. Also, I use he, him pronouns. And what more? I don't know. Just been playing Trophy for a little while, but I enjoy the heck out of it.
Fabulous, thank you. And our new player today, Arthur.
Hi, Arthur. Pronouns are he, him. I'm a French speaker who's played some Trophy Dark in the past, and I'm very excited to be testing Trophy Go for the first time, especially with Jason. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, I'm glad to have you. So yeah, let me begin by let's just go through CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The idea behind CATS is to establish some basic expectations for what we're going to be doing today. The concept of Trophy Gold is a party-based fantasy adventure game about desperate treasure hunters going into the lost and forgotten places of the world in order to retrieve valuables and antiquities that they need in order to ultimately satisfy some big goal that they have, their drive. The game embraces a very like sort of desperation ethos, and the way it plays out is we tend to learn a lot about the characters as we play. And so and we've learned a lot about the returning characters already, but that's okay for you, Arthur, because I think the way the game works is you're going to slide in pretty easily and just figure things out as you go. This particular incursion, the Rime Palace, is by Alexi Sargent. It is going to be in the Trophy Gold book, and that book is available for pre-order now for anybody watching the video. You can find the pre-order link in the notes. It is a probably a little bit more high fantasy, fae influenced incursion, so that should be interesting, kind of a different change of pace for this campaign. The aim of today, to be quite frank, a good portion of today is just going to be kind of housekeeping and character creation, but we will be able to start the incursion, and we will just play as long as we can. We'll save about 5 to 10 minutes at the end for feedback. The tone of the game generally is pretty dark. This incursion is also quite dark, but it also has this sort of lightness and beauty to it. It is about this sort of beautiful frozen north fae kind of place, and so that's kind of the tone that we're kind of swimming in. In terms of subject matter, there's nothing in the module that I need to particularly call out in terms of subject matter. It's pretty standard, not standard, but it makes it sound boring, but it's very like unobjectionable high fantasy stuff, basically, right? There's no like particularly intense subject matter going on. That said, we will have 3 safety tools on the table. The first is going to be the open door policy. You are free to leave if you need to for any reason, and nobody will question that. The second is the X card. In this context, the way the X card works is if something happens in the game that you find to be objectionable for any reason, you can say X card or type it in the chat, and we will stop and address it and figure out what needs to be changed. I may ask you what is being X carded, but I won't ask you why. And then the third tool we'll be using is called lines and veils. Lines are things that we absolutely will not be doing in the game in terms of subject matter. Veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play it. And so I'm going to say my lines and veils, and then I'll wait about 30 seconds or so for you all to have a chance to speak up. You can also message me on Discord if you prefer, and I can convey it to the group then. So my only line is going to be sexual violence. I don't really want to do sexual violence in the game, so we're not going to have that. Veils, I'm going to put a veil behind Violence against small children, just small children. I don't care about teenagers, but like little kids, no violence towards little kids. And then, or at least I don't want to role play it. And I don't want to role play torture either. I'm okay with it being a thing. I just prefer not to RP it. Those are my lines and veils. I will wait a little bit for you all to have a chance to speak up or to say nothing.
I think mine line up the same way.
Yeah, same for me.
Mine are the same also, but as a high school teacher, I might, I don't know, have some professional jeopardy with violence towards teenagers.
You can 100% caveat emptor or say that you do not believe in violence against teenagers, and we embrace that.
Right, exactly.
That's good. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do here. So the first thing we're going to do is make characters. I think what would be best, just to make the process a little more smooth, I guess, and so that Arthur has all the information he needs, is to have Brian and Drew introduce their returning characters, because those characters have had 8 or 9 sessions under their belt already. And so introduce those characters so we kind of see who they are. And then we will give Arthur a chance to make his character. And then while Arthur's doing that, the two of you can be transferring your characters to the brand new character keeper that we're going to be using. And so let's just go ahead and do the introductions of the returning characters right now on the recording. So Brian, tell us a little bit about Korkalak, please.
Sure. Korkalak is an orphaned mannequin. So kind of a construct made of bits of porcelain, twigs, vines. And as an occupation, he's been an antiquarian, and well, I guess the orphan mannequin is his background. His drive is to find a descendant of his deceased creator, in that sense that he's hoping that there's a way to build more parts to kind of keep himself maintained if he learns the craft. In terms of pronouns, as an orphaned mannequin, anything goes, like he, she, it, they, doesn't matter. What else? Rituals include rewind and mask. And as a kind of a holdover from Hester's Mill, know the Scarecrow ritual. Oh, and I'm toting around a Magic Agenos painting that we still don't know what it does.
Indeed. Good. That's a good summary. Thank you. Awesome. And if you have any questions, Arthur, by all means, say so. But Drew, tell us about Osto.
Osto is a young man from Fort Durin. He is a cured beast bitten with the occupation Ox, and his drive is to buy his brother's freedom from Barsoul prison. He is fairly new to the treasure hunting game, and he leans on his companions a fair bit, but when push comes to shove, he's ready to swing his warhammer, and usually not die doing it so far. And yeah, he's usually when he's in combat, he'll kind of half transform into a bear, hold back as much as he can, and he might have some anger issues, but that's nothing that a good Molotov cocktail through someone's window won't fix.
Fabulous, thank you. And so with that said, we're going to pause the recording so that viewers don't have to watch us make characters. So let's pause that. Okay, we're back. So let's go ahead and introduce our brand new character. Arthur, please tell us about Scum.
Scum. He's chosen the name of Scum because that's what his goblin name means. So he introduces himself to everyone as Scum. And he's a refugee, a goblin refugee. He fled from the war with his family. Unfortunately, his wife and children, I imagine them that I don't think they died during the escape, but I can imagine that they got sick somehow. And that's why he's going on treasure hunts from now on. He's trying to earn some coin to support his family and find a cure. So he's taken a new job as a carpenter, and his long-lasting goal would be to find a way to create life, make his creations into living things, perhaps as mannequins. And for that, he's trying to investigate rumors of magic woods or stuff like that, where he could find the materials he needs to be on that.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you want us to know about him?
I think that's it for now. The ideas will come to me as we play, I think.
Absolutely. Great. I do have one question about, so being a goblin, we have not yet had a goblin in the campaign, so I want to make sure that our understanding of goblins are the same. So do you, like, sort of visually, do you imagine like the classic, like, bat-eared goblin with rows of teeth?
Totally, like a small creature, like kind of hunching all the time, shifty eyes, but maybe not the dirty, filthy kind of goblin that you'd find in D&D. Like he's smart. He's not a monster, but visually speaking, he's your typical goblin.
Good. Okay, yeah, that's great. That sounds great. Awesome. Thank you. And be thinking about your drive a lot, because as we play, I will always sort of return to your drive as a thing to kind of explore your character, as a lens through which to explore your character. So be thinking about it a bit. And you have the Germinate ritual, which lets you compel plants to furious growth. We had that in our session last night, actually. It was really fun.
Oh.
And then it's a different campaign though. So. And awesome. I think with that said, I do want to just say a couple of things about the rules that I like to say before we start. And the first is that Trophy Gold is very player-facing in the sense that a lot of the fiction and the narrative comes from the players. Whenever dice hit the table, especially for the risk roll, the players have pretty close to an equal say with the GM as far as like what could happen, right? There's certain parts of the GM gets to have decision-making authority on, but the players always get to sort of speak about what they think could happen if something goes wrong, or in the case of a devil's bargain, they can introduce things to sort of like really twist and shape the fiction, right? So I know everybody here knows what a devil's bargain is. This is more for people watching the video, but a devil's bargain is your most effective tool for sort of pushing the narrative into being what you want it to be and to telling the story that you want to tell. A devil's bargain is a part of the basic conflict resolution role that if the player making the roll accepts the bargain, then they get extra dice for their roll. And the devil's bargain is something that happens whether the die roll, whether the action succeeds or fails, the devil's bargain happens. And so I like to give the example of, you're trying to jump across a gorge to get to the other side, right? And so that's a risk roll. And the devil's bargain that comes up, everybody's making their offers. And one of them is, well, no matter what, you're going to drop your sword down the gorge. Okay. So if you make it across, your sword falls. If you don't make it across, your sword falls because you're falling probably. But in any case, your sword's going down. And if the player accepts that, then they get a die, right? And so now, no matter what, the sword is going to fall down the gorge, right? Another devil's bargain, maybe a more interesting twist on that might be, no matter what, your spurned lover who you have been trying to avoid for the last year is waiting for you on the other side of the gorge. So we might not have even known about a spurn lever before the Devil's Bargain, but now that someone's introduced it as Devil's Bargain, especially if the player accepts it, it's now it's a part of the fiction. It's something we didn't anticipate, but now it's part of the story. And so those, unlike other more traditional fantasy, party-based fantasy games, this is a way that you can really shape the story. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to say about the rules. The second thing I want to say about the rules is that the game runs on a very interesting economy called the hunt roll token. So this economy, your characters will be exploring, asking questions, searching, doing that sort of thing. And as you do that, you'll be making this die roll called the hunt roll. And part of that die roll is collecting hunt roll tokens. And so you'll get your token. And what the tokens do is they give you, as the player, a just a little bit of like control over the pace of the narrative. Okay, so you have to find treasure in order to meet your burdens. If you return from the dungeon without having met your burdens, your character's retired from play. So you're always trying to find treasure. And so the hunt roll token lets you sort of automatically get treasure. You can spend one to get a treasure, right? At any time, as long as you've got it. The other way you can use hunt roll tokens is to accomplish what are called set goals. So the dungeons are divided up into sets, and each of those sets has a goal. And this goal can be something that the characters care about, or it can be an out of character goal, something that the players care about, right? But in any case, you can, as a group, pool your hunt roll tokens and spend 3 of them to just automatically accomplish the set goal without having to go through any trouble. You can just automatically accomplish it. You can accomplish set goals just naturally in the gameplay as well, but if you want to have a shortcut for whatever reason, you can spend the hunt roll tokens. Why might you want to do that? Well, maybe your characters are very hurt and they can't stay in the dungeon much longer. And so you might spend those hunt roll tokens to get the set goals done so you can get out of there, right? Another thing, and the more experience you get with the game and the savvier groups that I played with, this is what they do. You might decide that it would be more narratively interesting for us to find this set goal right now, right? And so you spend the tokens to accomplish it right now as opposed to later, right? So it's a currency that, again, gives you a lot of agency as a player to adjust and affect the narrative, but in more specific ways. So with all those things said, I think it would be nice for us to take a quick 2-minute bio break, get some water. We'll come back and we'll start.
Quick question.
Okay, we're back. Word reached Fort Durin a number of months ago about a fabulous palace in the frozen north. It has been colloquially called the Rime Palace. I shall type that for you. And treasure hunters have been setting out from Fort Durin to reach the Rime Palace because fabulous frozen palaces in the north are almost certainly filled with rare and valuable magic treasures, right? Almost by definition. And even some folks that you know, the other player characters, went to the frozen north to find the Rime Palace. And they have not returned. No one's returned, in fact. It is a little bit like going into the great old Caldor forest, from which very, very few groups return, but people still keep going. And you all are going, perhaps to find your friends, perhaps to, well, definitely to find treasures that will help you achieve your drives. And we just find you straight away in the first set, entitled The Teetering Graveyard. Nestled in a mountain cleft in the frozen north The Teetering Graveyard is an ancient site where many mounds of bones, human and otherwise, have been piled up. Scholars from Amberay speculate that these were offerings to long forgotten gods. The one singular detail that accompanies all of the rumors about the Rime Palace is that the way you reach it is via a ship made of bones called Ardkin. And so your first set goal is uncover and set sail in the bone ship. Let me type that out for you. Now, you see a couple of things here in addition to what I've described. Or experience a couple of things, probably a better way to put it. There is one pile of bones that is not as neat as the rest. It is a slightly irregular shaped pile of bones compared to these other neat piles you see. It's also a very big pile. It also stands out because it has a giant skeletal wing jutting out of it. Crying out to be investigated, right? Strange, irregular pile of bones, giant, and I mean giant, like the wing is like the size of like a, lengthwise at least, of like a house. Okay, it's really big. You also hear, just out of sight, perhaps coming from behind another pile of bones up ahead, a very, like a moaning, a pained moaning, a woman's moaning. Oh, I'm getting a note that I'm stuttering a little bit. Is it mostly intelligible, or should I restart?
Mostly.
Okay, let me just check my, make sure there's nothing going on with my connection real fast. It's been okay this week, but you never know. Okay, well, just keep me informed how it's going. So there's this sound of a woman, this very like she's in pain, and you hear it coming from the other side of the mound of bones. As you sort of are making your way through this cleft in the mountain, you start to be very aware of bones crunching easily beneath your boots. Maybe not your boots, Scum, because you're so little, but everybody else with some weight to them. They're definitely crunching underfoot. And it's almost pleasant. Like, you know, the pleasant sensation of like bubble wrap, like popping bubble wrap. It's a little bit like that. Like, you start to, maybe you even start to forget it's like human bones. It's just, you know, this delicate, these bones crunching away beneath your feet. And also there's no odor of decay in here. It's almost like the ghost of a scent has been just bleached away from the bones, right? Like, it's a very cold, odorless experience. I'm going to start with Osto. What do you
do? So I think my first question is, what is the status of like giant or dragons in this world? Would they be thinking about dragons?
It is a thing that you have legends about, but you've probably never seen one. So.
Okay. So yeah, Osto will look at Korkuluk before kind of gently moving toward the bigger mound, keeping a wide berth of it, and going, "Hello."
Calling out to the pained voice, or
Yes.
Do a hunt roll. I think you're mostly trying to gather information here, right? You get 1 light die just for doing it, and another light die if you can justify or exploit a skill or a piece of equipment.
Other than perhaps using my spyglass to look from afar, I don't think so.
And if you're doing that, you can, but otherwise, just 1 die. So.
I think just 1. Oh, I'm in the wrong channel. Sorry, Brian.
Oh yeah, and Arthur will be using the dice roller in the Discord.
5.
So you get a token, but you discover something terrible or encounter something terrible. Let me come back to that. Korkuluk, what are you doing?
I feel like the moaning voice is the more pressing issue at the moment as well. So kind of supporting Osto, kind of trailing along behind. Axe at the ready.
And Scum? Sorry, I cut you with food in your mouth. I'll give you a second.
I'm sorry, I'm eating dinner. Scum is lagging behind Korkuluk and Osto a bit. It's his first time on an adventure, and he's not very at ease, so he's just staying behind the 2 more seasoned treasure hunters, sort of watching what they're doing. And so the both of you are interested in the moaning, right?
Yep.
So I guess Scum will be directing to the giant skeleton wing just to observe it, perhaps circle around the pile of bone and maybe see if he can get another angle on it.
I love it. Do a hunt roll. You get 1 light die for just doing it, and another light die if you're using a skill or a piece of equipment.
I don't think any skill or equipment applies here, so.
Okay, 1 die.
And that's a 2.
And you encounter something terrible. We will come to that in a moment. Let's start with your terrible thing, Osto. The thing that, so you and Korkuluk are responding to the moaning. And you said you called out, right, Osto?
Yep.
What'd you say?
Just hello? Or is someone there?
The woman says, "Be careful! Be careful! They'll go for your ankles."
Osto's going to stop moving like instantly and just start looking down at the ground, lifting a boot and figuring maybe something's amongst the bones.
And at this point, Scum, since you're kind of a little ways away from the rest of the group, not super far away, but like 100 yards or so. As soon as you hear the voice say, "They'll go for your ankles," you see a creature on the other side of this big mound of bones that you're circling around. It is sort of ape-shaped. It has dingy, matted kind of fur, kind of a whitish fur. Fairly small, maybe just a little bit bigger than you, Scum. And it is it has very like long spindly fingers and rows of sharp teeth, and it's kind of like very deftly climbing down the pile of bones. What do you do, Scum?
Sirs, there's something there. What do I do?
What do you do?
I draw out my dagger, take my shield in hand, and just stand in front of the ape thing, kind of just watching what's it doing for the moment. Perhaps trying to gauge if it's hostile or
It is
just curious.
not just curious. It definitely. So I think you see it, like you look in its hand and you see what appears to be a fairly fresh, bloody bone. And as it sort of deftly climbs down the pile of bones, barely disturbing it at all, it's like sucking on the marrow, and it sort of like throws the bone to the side and gets really, really low to the ground, almost like flat to the ground on all fours, and just begins to go forward towards you. What if Korkalik and Osto, you hear our Scum calling out? What do you do?
I think Osto will grab his warhammer off of his back and start turning towards Scum.
I feel like priorities have shifted, and the fledgling member might need some assistance.
Indeed, indeed. Let's just do a combat.
How do we deal with these beasts?
Yeah, let's just do a combat roll. It is an endurance 7, so not too bad. And you all will get, you'll start with 3 combat dice. So Scum, since you're on the front line, why don't you go ahead and roll /combat 3.
Uh, 6, I think.
Did we need to roll weak points before?
That's thank you. Yes, you need to roll weak points. We'll re-roll that combat die. Let's do weak points. So everybody say how you're vulnerable, and then roll /weak.
As for Scum, I think the way he's vulnerable is simply that he's never really had to face that kind of danger before. The kind where you have to fight for your life. Usually he's just been running away from danger, so that'll be his first fight.
So I overheard this moaning voice warn us about things damaging our ankles, and I've had a broken ankle before, and still have kind of ill memories of that. So I'm almost like too gingerly like paying attention to my footing more than the fight in front of my face. So I could be looking the wrong direction at the wrong time. And I rolled a 4 for my weak point.
I love it. Osto?
I think Osto hasn't had the time or the foresight to do his normal half beast bitten shift, so he's clumsy and very human.
Fabulous. Okay, now let's roll that combat now. So go ahead and take it away, Arthur. Whoa. That's, for viewers of the video, that was like triple 6s. What are the chances of that? Very low. Did anybody have 6 on their weak point? You did not. So the creature is destroyed. Everybody gets a chance to describe destroying this thing. So whoever wants to go first, dive in there.
Given the sort of the naivete of Scum, I feel like the story is better if I really don't contribute. I'm more like clumsily picking my way through the bones, trying to keep my ankles pristine, and the beast sights in on me and is like, and makes its move for me. I don't even swing my axe.
I love it. Osto, what do you do?
Kind of, I think he's going to swing his warhammer a little bit like a golf club, just kind of sweep it low and maybe catch the thing in the shoulder.
Nice. Finish it off, Scum.
I think maybe the ape thing gets staggered from Osto's blow, and I'm just behind it, sort of there to catch it when it lands on me, and just sort of happens to fall on my dagger. So I'm a little, nervous.
Fantastic. I love it. Osto, roll 7 gold dice.
Oh,
Nothing of value on this creature, but you do get to name the beast. So take a moment to think about the name, and we'll add it to the bestiary.
any thoughts, Arthur?
It's even more difficult for me since English is not my mother tongue.
Tell us in French.
Seriously, maybe in French.
Yeah. Well, we can have a French name. That's totally fine.
Je ne parle français.
We could call it a blape, sort of a mix of blanc, which is white in French, and ape. Blape.
I love it. How do you spell that for me?
BLAPE.
BLAEE.
APE.
OPE. Blape. Very good. Awesome. Well, let's have that scene at having just been attacked by this a fairly not difficult creature. It's pretty small, and you were all able to deal with it pretty efficiently. The hide of the creature is so thin and raggedy that you wouldn't be able to get much off of it. The teeth, while sharp, are surprisingly brittle and fine, probably not useful for anything. It's just it's a pretty bedraggled looking creature, to be quite honest. But let's just have that scene here at the end of this. So go ahead, role play.
I step up to Scum, who I'm assuming is holding this sort of bloody dagger in his hand, and give that overly hearty slap on the back that kind of knocks the wind out of him a little bit. And they're like, "Welcome to the group. Nicely done. That was impressive. You've already earned your keep."
It was more done by mistake than by intent, but thanks nonetheless.
Asta will kind of give him a smile and gingerly turn the beast over with the end of his hammer, just kind of giving it a look over and just look down at it with clear distaste. Don't like this.
The voice of the woman says, "I don't hear anyone screaming in pain, and so I assume that the melee ended in your favor."
Yeah, we're okay. Are you okay? And he'll start walking back towards the source of the voice.
You see on the other side of a pile of bones an injured woman, a markswoman, based off of the bow and arrows and quiver that she has. She is on the ground, leaning on the pile of bones. She actually has a crossbow. I take that back. Crossbow at the ready. Her face is flushed, sweat pouring down. She's clearly in a lot of pain, but she's fighting through it at this moment. the reason is because pooled at her feet is a large amount of blood, her own blood. You can see that the creature has torn through her boots. You can see a fair number of like pile of dead ones, these dead little ape creatures around, but they have ripped at her boots and absolutely torn apart her ankles and Achilles tendon. She obviously can't walk. You even see a companion whose boots and feet were removed by the creatures at some point. Also lots of blood, and he didn't make it. And she says, let me guess, you're here from Fort Duran, responding to the rumors of the Rime Palace.
We're from Fort Duran. Some of our friends went. We're after them.
I hope they fared better than we did.
Is there anything we can do to help you get you somewhere safer?
I don't know. I suppose I could stay here and die of the cold, or when more of these creatures return, at least my body would be preserved. Or you could take me with you. I'm a good shot.
We have two questions here. One, has she tourniqueted her own legs? Like, is she still bleeding here?
Yes, she has actually stopped the bleeding. But you can tell the injuries are very severe. She cannot walk.
And then this might be stretching things too much. How recently was your injury? And based on her response, do I feel like a rewind ritual might pull her back in time enough to regain her?
I think the rewind has to be fairly recent, right? I like it though, so I'm going to let you attempt it.
Ooh, all right.
I'll let you attempt it. I think it could go really disastrously bad because you might have to go a little deep into the rewind magic to make it work, right? Right. Which could be dangerous. But if you want to do it, by all means.
What do you think, Osto and Scum?
It's worth a shot.
I don't see why not. It could be of help to us.
So I'll do that thing where you rub your hands together to get ready, and I'm like, all right, look, I've done this to myself once before. It was a little different. I'm half porcelain and half vines, so this could go badly. I'll give her an option to opt out. Do you want me to try this? I can try to put your legs back together.
She says, I don't know what you intend to do. I do know that if I stay here, I'm dead, and I don't have any other better ideas. So by all means, puppet man, do what you will.
Nice. All right. Osto and Scum, I don't know, just be on guard here. This could go horrible.
Miss Kroll, we all get to say what we think, everyone but Brian gets to say what we think could happen if the die roll is failed. I think the failure condition could be you could rewind a little too far back to the moment when these people were being attacked by a herd of these blapes. And so that's my thought. Drew and Arthur, you get to speak as well.
Going along the lines of your idea, Jason, I believe maybe the ritual could, instead of fixing the woman's ankle, it could perhaps resuscitate the blape that we just killed.
Or just, I guess I like it when magic does weird, unexpected things. It rewinds something in the bone pile.
I like that too. Interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at your dice. You get 1 light die if you're using a skill or a piece of equipment or the environment. So what do you think?
There's an array of bones partially digested around it. Feels like there's some fragments to kind of say, here's a starting point, we're going to add this on. She may end up with like 1 blape foot and 1 human foot by the time I'm done. I don't know.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, that's perfect use of the environment. So you have 1 light die there. Devil's bargains. These are things that will happen if you accept one of them. It will happen no matter what, whether you succeed or fail. I like a version of Drew's fail condition, which is no matter what, some bone thing or something is resurrected in the process, not a blape, something else.
I think I don't think I can beat that.
You have 1 offer so far.
I don't have I don't have any specific idea at the moment. Sorry.
You got 1 offer, Brian.
All right, it's good. Let's do it. I want to see what comes up out of this bone pile.
You're up to 2 light dice, and you take a dark die because you're doing a ritual. Go ahead and roll risk to 1.
Ouch. She gets her legs back, and a lot goes wrong.
Well, no, a 6 is a full success. So,
but it's a high dark, so I'm taking a ruin, right?
You're taking a ruin, yeah. You're taking a ruin, but there is something coming back because that was Devil's Bargain. But the magic works. Like, what does it look like when you at least fix her up?
There's a little bit of sort of the baffled professor here, where I've seen constructs built, and so I'm trying to repair human tissue, and like kind of like, oh, I'll just grab this vine over here. Oh wait, no, they don't use vines, do they? Fling that over my shoulder, start kind of stroking these broken bits of bone, and then kind of trying to pull some vitae, some fluid, some blood from her own body to kind of form an attachment. All while, of course, speaking backwards, because that's how one does when rewinding time. So I'm trying to give her soothing words, but they come out in that perverted, like, kind of way that speech backwards does. So for her, it's probably not the most pleasant reconstruction of her appendages.
I love it. I think your ruin increase is mostly just going to come down. I'm going to give you a condition to go along with it, just so you can role play it. And basically, I think little parts of your body are rewinding and fast forwarding constantly now, at least until you get the condition cleared. You can editorialize that condition however you wish, but let's talk about the Devil's Bargain, though. You reached a little too deep in the time manipulation and pulled a couple of threads that maybe didn't need to be pulled. Quite suddenly, there is a group of robed, hooded individuals in a circle around the bone pile. They have torches and candles, and their leader, who is wearing a stag skull mask, is chanting words at the bone pile. Whatever took place here probably happened hundreds of years ago, but it's here with you right now. And they are chanting, and I'm going to leave this up to Scum and Osto because I think Korkaluk is busy with what Korkaluk is doing. The bone pile is vibrating and shaking. Osto, what do you do?
He's going to, take some stuffs back with his warhammer in both hands, and he's going to start his half shift. So he starts bulking out or bear hulking out, and he's going to look at Korkaluk and you might want to slow down there, bud.
The chanting continues. Everyone, all the cultists, their voices rise up. The bones are starting to rise up and take shape. Scum, what do you do?
Scum is looking back and forth at Korkluk and the bone pile, and the more the chanting goes on, the higher his shield is being raised in front of his face, and he's asks Osto, "Is this normal? Should this be happening?"
Yes and no.
Shouldn't we, I don't know, stop it maybe, or?
Yeah, probably. And I think Osto's going to approach the stag-headed guy with his hammer.
And at that moment, the stag-headed guy turns, almost like he didn't see you before, but now he does. And he says, Interloper! And the cultists just rush you guys. They have knives and short blades, and they're just flying at you. I will tell you, if you don't take them out right now, in one round of combat, the bone thing they're summoning becomes a problem as well. Fortunately, the markswoman is well enough to help. So that is a thing. She stands up a little wobbly at first, and she looks at you, Korkaluk, and says, I don't know what you've done. It appears to be quite a lot, but let's take care of this problem. And she's ready to fire on the cultists.
Give a little dashing tip of my colander helmet.
Indeed. You're starting with 4 combat dice because of the help of the markswoman. Scum, go ahead and roll. Or so weak point first. How are you vulnerable? I think I'll remember this time.
For Scum, I think it's the sheer number of enemies. Like he's not used to combat, so he'll just be overwhelmed at some point if things go right.
Osto is very much better at one-on-one fighting, so if he's getting rushed by others, he's going to be open on at least 2 other sides.
And I'm a little full of bravado at having sort of successfully pulled off this, like, oh my god, I can't believe that worked. But as I grab my axe to charge in, I'm like, wait a minute, that pinky isn't where that pinky used to be, and like body parts, as you said, are shifting a little bit. So like there's a pinky trailing on the wrong side of the axe handle that shouldn't be there. So a bit distracted with parts phasing in and out or not being where they ought to be.
Indeed. You are up to. Do I have weak points on the table? What are the numbers so far? 2, 2, and 6.
Yes.
Okay, so Scum, go ahead and roll combat 4. Looking for 10. Got it. And no weak point either. It's 2 5s, a 3, and a 1. It's awesome. So
Goblin is the best.
Yeah. 2 5s, a 3, and a 1. So that's a 10, which is what you need to win. And no weak point were rolled because weak points were 6, 2, and 2. So fabulous. You will be able to destroy the cultists before the magic can be completed. Osto, take out some cultists. What does it look like?
He just swings his hammer, knocks one right into the bone pile, and just turns around and gets another, just doing his best. But also the whole time he's kind of got a kind of quavering yell of going
And
on.
I'm gonna do the classic scene where, like, as you're doing that, a cultist like rushes up and is ready to plunge a dagger into your neck, but then the markswoman's crossbow bolt just comes flying and catches him, and he like falls down behind. Keep it going, Corkaluk.
With kind of a new understanding of human anatomy and how shin bones work, I'm going low with my axe swings here and just kind of treating it like a golf club, like just taking them off at the kneecaps, dropping somebody, kicking their shin to the side, noticing that again my things are trailing a little bit off, like the blood splatter arrives when I'm 3 strides past, like get hit in the face with some blood, but lopping off legs here and there as I wade through.
Awesome, I love it. Finish it off, Scum.
Scum is having a bit of trouble at the beginning of the fight, he has to fend off a couple of cultists at the same time, but he rapidly finds that his size is an advantage, and he dodges there, rolls here, manages to cut their tendons, so they can't fight anymore. And he just stands up, looking surprised, and glances at his companions and says, "Hey, I'm getting good at this." And just at that moment, there's a third cultist that comes up behind him, and the melee continues.
Fabulous, I love it. And the markswoman gets a couple more shots off, takes out the last couple, and the bone pile settles down and is good.
Are we doing
Brian.
a looting for corpses roll?
Yeah, Brian, roll 10 gold. Or gold 10.
Woohoo,
That's
4.
much more generous that time. 4 gold, awesome. So a couple of things you have to do here. You have to name the cult, and you have to decide what sorts of valuables that they're carrying that is worth, 4 gold, 4 different things, basically. We can take a 5-minute break so you can all think of that stuff, and then we'll come back at 5. So what are we calling these cultists from presumably an ancient time? And what valuables do we find on them, group?
I suggested the Order of the Frost-Blooded.
I love that very much. So we shall call them that, if nobody has any objections. And valuables. What do they have on them that's sellable?
Well, I think the antlers from the leader would be a fine trophy.
You can add that to your pack, and it's worth 1 gold.
I think one of them had some sort of clearly religious token of like a worked snowflake.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's great. Add that to your pack. It's worth 1 gold. Corkaluk?
Damn, I had a very similar idea to that. Let us see this, an antler, but where the oh my god, I'm forgetting the word for it. The bulge at the end where the antler attaches. There's a word for that. That part has some writing, some kind of arcane writing that we can't read, but it's clear that somebody's worked a kind of a decorative spiral that's tiny words into the burr, or whatever one calls it.
As I say, if the Canadian doesn't know what that's called, there's probably the rest of us have no chance whatsoever. So good, I love it. Go ahead and add that to your pack. It's worth 1 gold. And then you could just take if somebody wants to take a second of something else for the 4th gold, or make up a new thing, by all means, go for it.
I think our new goblin buddy, who's so skilled at combat, should take the 4th gold.
Yeah, sure. I guess maybe the robes are tied by a thick rope. There's maybe gold or silver thread threaded into the rope.
Fantastic. That's great. Go ahead and add that to your treasure. It's worth 1 gold. Let me remind you of the set goal. Set goal is to uncover and set sail in the bone ship. So, Asto, what are you up to?
I was wondering if Osto could check Neral's bestiary for the wing thing, or see if there's any clues in there.
Oh, very good. We'll take that as a hunt roll using Neral's bestiary. So go ahead and roll 2 hunt dice.
Three.
There is an entry in the bestiary for the bone ship, actually. It's a legendary thing, not really a beast, and there's not much of a description of the ship, just a sort of like, we've heard rumors, right? This is what we know. And the thing that is terrible is that, according to the author of this bestiary at least, the thing that powers the ship is the revelation of dark secrets and uncomfortable truths by the people who hope to be ferried away by the ship. So if you didn't know your companions well before this, you're going to have a chance to once you get on the ship. But otherwise,
we'll pass that on.
Yeah.
Speaking of companions, does the archer have a name?
Yes. Now that we have a moment to breathe here, she introduces herself as Editha. I'll spell that on the chat. She is not from Fort Durin. She's from Ambre. She actually was a former member of King's Guard, one of the king's archers, but she wants more in life, and so she's sought this life. Her dead companion is her husband, and she says, "Lest you think I am as cold as the earth upon which we walk, I have had enough time to mourn him before you found me. There'll be time to properly see him off in memory, at least, in spirit, if not body, at another time. For now, my strange trio of companions, I say we find the way to the Rime Palace."
So Editha, you say you're from Ambre?
I am.
Ever run into a guy named Sir Peregrine? He walks with a limp too.
I do not know a Sir Peregrine, I'm sorry.
Asta's going to just kind of snort and cover his face and look away.
So, a mannequin, a goblin, and a beast-bitten bear man walk into a mountain. What do we do next?
Yeah. Is there a token or a memento of your beloved that you should take before leaving his corpse here?
I'm going to suggest that if I take such a thing, I will be less incentivized to return for the body. And so we shall get it on the way back.
That's fair.
So, Corklook.
Is there any armor we should salvage from him before we push further?
Oh, good question. Yeah, he has leather armor.
I'm wearing some already. Can we hack it down to goblin size?
So yeah, you could probably get enough pieces off of it for sure. Yeah.
I could fashion it into something for me, I guess.
Editha has no objections to this if you want to do that. So.
I thank you for giving me permission to take your husband's armor.
You can go ahead and add the armor to your equipment. You can add it as armor. If you keep it, you have to increase your burdens when you get back home. But for now, you don't have to increase your burdens yet. Just next time. So.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So, Osto, what's the next move here?
I think he's going to ask Editha about the bone ship.
Well, in truth, we were attacked very early upon reaching here. We haven't had much chance to look for anything. I've heard the same things you've heard. A bone ship that will whisk you away to the Rime Palace. That's the rumor, right? There are lots of bones, but I see no ship.
Maybe if we climbed atop this big wing, we could have a better view of our surroundings.
Well, you are probably the lightest of us. By all means. Noble scum.
And now Scum is regretting making that, having that idea.
So the plan is to scale the wing and look down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's
Okay.
Scale the pile of bone, get on the top of the wing,
good.
and see what he sees.
I like it. We'll take it as a hunt roll for now. If it goes poorly, maybe you might have to be dangling from a precipice or something. But go ahead and do a hunt roll. You get one light die for just because, and you get another light die if you use a piece of equipment or a skill. I'll point out that you have equipment in your pack in your open slots that you can choose from as well. So.
I suppose if the pile isn't too frail, he could use some two of the iron spikes he carries with him and use them as pickaxes or some sort.
I think probably for scaling the wing, yeah, for sure. At least getting up bits of the wing for sure.
So that's two dice. 4 and a 2.
Take a hunt roll token, and I think before you even get to the wing, you've got your tools, you're ready to go. You're able to scale the mound a little easier than everybody else because you are smaller, and so it doesn't like slide or crumble as much. But as you get to the wing itself and start to, getting your spikes ready to have a look, it shifts a little bit. There's a distinct shift, and bones start to kind of cascade down, not in maybe in a dangerous way. We'll talk about that, but you are able to catch yourself with the spikes so that you don't fall, right? The bones are avalanching down Osto on top of the group of you. You are the biggest and hardiest of the bunch. So what do you do to protect the group from this?
I think I'll cast Ward.
Oh, nice. Good. I like that. A fast cast, but a cast. Okay, good. Let's talk about the die rolls. It's a risk roll. What could go wrong? You don't get it off in time and you all get crushed by bones. That seems reasonable. Korkulek, or rather Brian or Arthur, any thoughts on what could go wrong? Oh, if you're talking, Arthur, you're muted.
Yeah, I was thinking aloud in French. So maybe the spell, you managed to cast the spell, but perhaps not in a strong enough way that it protects everyone. And maybe Editha or Korkulek gets hurt.
Someone's out of the circle. Yeah, it's good.
I don't think I have anything better than that for what can go wrong.
So you're getting a light die for, I don't know, what do you think for your skills or equipment?
Persistence, strength.
That's right.
Strength, yeah, I'll take strength. And so you're up to 1 light die. Devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is going to be that no matter what, the bone avalanche summons more blapes.
That was going to be my idea. So
Sounds like you've got one offer so far, Drew.
We got another one. I'm presuming that we are close to the bone ship, and so this may or may not work. But that in casting Ward, within or part of the bone ship, there is a bear skull, and that your Ward spell sort of attaches or imbues into that in some way, which is going to be bad in the next set.
That's intriguing. You get a straightforward one and a very cryptic one. Your choice. What do you think, Drew?
I think I'll go with the bear skull.
Indeed.
The mystery.
2 light, 1 dark. Go for it.
Oof. 5 dark.
Let me tell you the complication. The complication is going to be you get the ward up just a little too late. Everyone's mostly protected, not crushed, but someone of the 3 of you, your choice, gets injured. Pretty straightforward. But otherwise, you're all fairly in good shape. If you don't want to do that, you can add a dark time roll again.
Yeah, I'll try that. Roll again. That's better.
Much better. 6 light. Yeah. Full success. Go ahead and describe it.
In just faster than he usually is capable of moving. He kind of drops his warhammer and lowers his head and just holds both of his arms out and concentrates on keeping the bones from showering on everyone.
So do the bones like literally just like plink away? Like, is there a magical force, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, it's like an invisible umbrella, and each bone kind of ripples in the air as it bounces off.
I love it. Revealed underneath the avalanche of bones is the bone ship. It's there. The wing is a part of the ship. There is another wing as well. There's 2 great big wings on either side. It's buried below this massive bones. It's in a little bit of disrepair, I suppose, but it is, we'll talk about the disrepair in a minute. But essentially, It's a mostly enclosed vessel that is shaped like a boat. It's got these skeletal wings stretching from the side. The walls, such as they are of the boat, are formed from the rib cage of some massive beast of old, perhaps a Ballandraker, perhaps. There is a sort of, described in the incursion as a mystic scrimshaw covering the exterior. And the problem, though, and this is something you're all going to have to deal with, is parts of the hull, as it were, are smashed, bent, broken. It's going to need some repairs before you're able to, before you're able to actually get this thing going. So you might be here for a minute repairing this thing. Scum, you can make your way down to the rest of the group at this point. Let's just have the scene. And I think Editha will point out that, like, well, I don't think it's going to go anywhere so long as the starboard side is smashed up like this.
Yeah, don't worry, Editha. That kind of work. Yeah, it's sort of my specialty.
I have heard of the intuitiveness and engineering skill of your people, so it will be very enjoyable to watch it at work. How quickly can you get this done? Because I fear that our ankle-biting friends are probably going to return at some point.
Well, I have to estimate the damage first and find the right materials to conduct the repairs. I don't know, perhaps 2 hours, 3 at most, maybe a little more.
All right. Well,
patch that hole in the hull with this blape hide, and I hold this limp blape carcass.
Indeed, indeed. I love it. I think this is a risk roll, Scum, to, like, with the help of your companions as needed, like, to repair the ship before any more danger comes, right? So let's talk about I think what could go wrong here pretty straightforwardly is more blapes do arrive, right? So.
I've got a question. Just sort of trying to understand this ship. Is this ship going to fly or actually sail through water? Do we know? We don't know, but we can tell there is damage to it that seems to be a penetration to the hull, or like the mast is no longer.
It's mostly the hull. Like, the hull is like a rib cage. Like, so you can look into it. Like, it's just a rib cage with like a hides and scrimshaw kind of roughly stretched over it, but it's mostly translucent. And there aren't really sails, although it does have the vague shape of a mast. The more important part of the big wings suggests that it's probably going to fly.
With my background as an antiquarian, have I heard of or seen diagrams of vessels like this in the past? Does this remind me of any artifacts that I know of?
I'll give you this for free. Not outside of legend and myth.
Okay. But nothing. I'm in a way also trying to angle to justify a hunt roll to help us both in repairing and understanding what this bizarre ship is.
Yeah, I'm giving you that answer for free. I don't. Scum is going to do the roll. I think you can all be helping in the fiction. I'm not going to do the help. There actually are help rules now for Trophy Gold, but I'm not using them right now. So,
Okay.
But I like it as a fictional thing, as more than just like we're actually mechanically it makes any difference. So.
I'll putter over the scrimshaw and be very analytical and adjust my spectacles in discerning ways.
Indeed. So I think this is a risk roll. I've already said what I think can go wrong. I think what can go wrong pretty straightforwardly is the more blapes arrive, right? If Drew or Brian, if you have any thoughts, by all means, offer them.
not knowing what's coming up, that we repair it, but it's going to make navigation, like it's going to kind of corkscrew. As we try to make this thing sail, it's not going to go where we want it to go.
Nice. That could be a good devil's bargain too.
I don't think I have anything.
So, Scum, you have repair. That's perfect, and tools. You were made for this risk roll. You've got all the skills necessary. You still just get one light die though. Let's talk about the devil's bargain. I really like Brian. If you want to offer that as a devil's bargain, like it's wobbly. I think that's a pretty good one.
I like that. I like that idea. I had the idea that even though Scum manages to repair the ship, since that's not really his area of expertise, he may do some damage here or there.
Yeah, I think it sounds really good. I like that a lot. If Drew, if you have an offer, by all means make it. But
just maybe it's not so much it changes the way it flies, but there is like very precarious seating inside that you might have to roll risk traveling.
You might get like tossed off of it or something. Yeah.
A slightly different thing that you might want to riff on, like you're patching up bones here that have scrimshaw. What if in patching you rearrange the sequence and accidentally create a new sequence in the scrimshaw decor?
I like that one.
But where does it go from there? I don't know where it goes from there. That's what I need.
I don't know either. But yeah, I like the idea. I don't really have anything to add to it, so maybe just leave it a surprise for now.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, the scrimshaw is interesting because I think that's probably the magic of it, right? Like that's probably what makes it go, So yeah, I think these all feel like the same devil's bargain to me in some sense, right? Like basically the ship doesn't quite work as anticipated because of the repairs.
But I'm not knowing where we're headed. Like I'm picturing us sailing to the shores of the land of the frostbitten fairy.
Yeah.
Does the prow of our ship now say like "F you fairies" because
I see what you're saying.
Rearrange the scrimshaw, or something, or we bring the heat, or I don't know.
I'll play with it. In any case, you're up to 2 light dice here, Scum. I don't need a dark die yet. You can go ahead and just roll 2 light for now.
6.
Fabulous. Go ahead and describe. You got a couple hours here. Since you're all here, you all got a couple of hours. While Scum is doing that, if the other 2 of you want to do something else, you certainly can. If you want to search around the other piles of bones or whatever, you're totally welcome to do that. I will just ask Asta, what do you do during the time that Scum is making the repairs?
Yeah, he's gonna spend some time looking around the bones, see if there's anything else worth noting or perhaps comparing to the book.
Yeah, fabulous. Go ahead and using the book again.
I think so, yeah.
Go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
5.
Nice. I think the thing that's most interesting here is the more time you spend in this place, take your token. The thing is that the book doesn't have anything useful to say, but the interesting thing here is there's lots and lots of bones, but there isn't otherwise any evidence of who was here. There are not bits of rusted armor like you find in other tombs and things. There are not leftover, rotted tents and things like that. There's just nothing like that. There are not any old campfires. It's like either the bones were put here after the fact, or someone very meticulously cleaned the place. This also goes with the idea of, we talked about how like there's no smell of decay either. It's like the bones were placed here, right, intentionally, which I think is interesting. I don't know what it means, but what do you think about that, Osto?
I think he's thinking about just the type of being that would ferry all these bones into this cleft between mountains, and that doesn't bode well.
Korklik, what are you doing during the time that Scum is repairing the ship?
I want to put my antiquarian skills to use and figure out why somebody is essentially wharfing a ship here, like, you know, a mystical, legendary bone ship. But why here? Why the route to the Palace of Ardkin, I think was the name.
The ship is called Ardkin.
Well, the ship's called Ardkin. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do we know the name of the palace or no?
It's just the colloquial name. The colloquial name is the Rime Palace.
Okay, that's right. A guy name's flipped there. So what, you know, why does Ardkin apparently sail to and from the Rime Palace?
Do a hunt roll with. You have antiquarian skill, you said.
Artifacts. Antiquarian's my background, so artifacts and
myths. Myths is helpful here. Yeah, go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
All right. 2 twos.
Knowing what you know about the way that the ship is powered, this revealing of secrets and uncomfortable truths, and knowing what you know about myths, and intuiting that this is, the Rime Palace is a home of Fae beings, I think you can probably come to the realization that this is for their amusement. The revelation of secrets and uncomfortable truths spoken aloud is for their amusement and satisfaction. And it beggars the question, is all of this for their amusement? Great scary piles of bones, magical scary bone ship. Even something about these bedraggled blape creatures that are so, like, think about it. They're creatures that bite your ankles. It's a horrible injury, but almost kind of, but there's something comical about it in a sense, right? Like they're like just diving down and biting at your heels. I think if I were in your position, I would be thinking about this is the Fae fucking with us in the way that Fae do. And yeah,
And
that's the terrible revelation.
How like to be a hairy, sort of low crawling primate.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Literally taking away the power of upright movement from people who arrive here. Right? Yeah. Anyway, ship's repaired. You want to give us a montage there as Scum? How'd that go?
Just like you said to Editha, he's just, for a while, he just circles around the ship to assess the damage, climbs on the masts, climbs on the railings. And that maybe takes him an hour, and after he's done his assessment, he perhaps uses the other members of the party puts them to a contribution to help with the repairs, and just orchestrates the whole thing from the top deck.
Good. Thank you. This bear skull. What an interesting thing, the bear skull. What do we do with that? I don't know. I think you notice it though, Osto, just because you're attuned to be looking for such things. What do you think when you see the bear skull?
I think he thinks back to both the bear that he met in Amberay and also the bear that initially started him on this path, that caused all of this. And so I think he's just going to be staring at it really, really reflectively.
And Corklook, or Brian, really, remind me, what was the precise devil's bargain of the skull?
The warding spell that Osto cast, or ritual, has sort of embedded itself in this bear skull, which is part of the ship. I don't quite know where the ship is going, but I could see it blocking him from entering a certain part of the ship physically.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Or that wherever the ship arrives, we land a little hard, the bear skull tumbles out and shunts him off to the side. Like, I'm kind of envisioning the skull buffering physically or emotionally Osto somehow.
I like it. One of the very first things we saw in the very first session of this campaign, in fact, was Corkalook sharing breath with the bear. That was back in Torrance Bend. And we never really explored like what that meant. It was almost like some sort of custom of the bear. It seemed like almost like a way of the bear, like saying you're cool, right? Like, we're cool. I wonder if that has something to do with it. Like, if there's something to do with ancient Ursine custom that maybe Osto has to deal with, or I don't know.
Maybe, shoot this down if it's horrible, Osto or Drew. Maybe Corkalook, having shared breath with a bear, is like, I'm bringing this with me, and is carrying the skull along. And
I kind of like that. It's fun.
No, just leave it behind.
Like, you almost feel like obligated to do it, right? Because your treasure hoard's in a bear cave, even, right? You have this connection to bears. Yeah. Let's just roll with that for now. We'll figure it out later. Do you all step aboard the ship?
Why, yes.
Yes.
Eagerly.
You essentially like are standing on a top deck made of interlocking mandalas of bone. Osto, it feels delicate. Doesn't seem to be any trouble for Corkalook or Scum, but like when you step on board, it feels like if you were to jump, you would just smash right through to the bottom, right? And you're all there. And as you climb aboard, the ship like almost like rights itself, and the wings, the skeletal wings, spread wide, towering above you. And you hear a voice. Calm, the voice of a woman. Pleasant, but definitely disembodied, just hanging in the air. We greet you and welcome you to our palace. Make your way with haste by speaking aloud your darkest truth, your unspoken secrets. They shall power this vessel. Who wants to go first?
I've got one. So my drive is to, find a living descendant of my deceased creator, Mashiko. As I'm sort of holding onto the rail of this skeletal vessel, I confess that I am the one who killed Mashiko. I killed my own creator. I watched the way that she created and crafted these beings, and I was pretty sure that I could learn that craft myself, and essentially attempted to reconstruct her body, catastrophically leading to her death. This is why I was a little nervous with trying to reconstruct Editha's shins, because the last time it didn't go well when I worked on a human. And so that's my dark secret, is that I destroyed my own creator as I tried to improve my own skills.
As you speak your truth, Korkaluk, the interior of the ship, the rib cage, inside the rib cage, beneath your feet, starts to fill with smoke of a certain color, perhaps connected to you, connected to your story, who knows. But I'm going to ask Drew as player, what color is the smoke?
I think it's a bluish gray.
And it has a smell. The first thing you've smelled in a good while, actually. Scum, what does the blue smoke smell like? The blue-gray smoke?
I think it smells like rowan tree.
Oh, interesting. Good. Editha speaks next. She says, no better time to get such things off my chest, I suppose. My husband, when those things were surrounding us, it was me or him. I chose him. What color is her smoke, Brian?
It's magenta, but it trails out. It kind of has a weight to it that bottoms out in a very bloody red.
What does it smell like, Drew?
It smells like heated iron.
Who wishes to speak next?
I can, unless you want to go ahead, Drew.
No, go ahead.
Scum is just sitting on the deck, listening to the darkest truth and spoken secrets, and getting comfortable enough to share his. The truth is, for a long time now, I found my family to be quite a burden. Since we've been on the run for a long time, since before the war even, I love them very much, but they're a strain on my artistic on my artistic goals, and I don't know, I'm just not in a place right now where I can just think about them all the time and prioritize them all the time. And that's why I've finally decided to embark on this adventure. Do some soul searching, as they say.
Love it. What color is the smoke, Drew?
It's like a muddy green brown.
What does it smell like, Brian?
A wonderful home-cooked meal with your family gathered around you.
Good. Asta, speak.
Osto looks between the others, and he knows the things he could say that might sound right, but they aren't quite true. And he just looks down and says, "I've been trying to rescue my brother for I don't even know how long, and I know that I should love him. I should worry about him. I should care, but I don't. This is habit. This is the only thing keeping me from going back to the forest and letting all this go. I'm tired, and I don't feel anything but tired."
Arthur, what color is the smoke?
I'm thinking vibrant yellow. So something that's quite visible.
And what does it smell like, Brian?
Very burned, like burned hair or burned bacon, something that's been cooked far too long.
And upon these 4 smokes filling up the ship, drifting up in little rivulets, dancing around the wings, you feel a sudden lightness as the ship lifts up from the ground. But it's not really like it lifts up from the ground. It's more like the mountain falls away. Set goals achieved. Let's take a 3-minute break. We'll continue, we'll get back. So it initially feels like the mountain is falling away. The world is falling away. Not in a rush. It's gradual, it's gentle. And eventually you start to feel like the ship is in fact floating through space, a silvery void, perhaps. Silver is all around you. The air has a silvery quality. Interpret that however you wish. The ship rocks gently. It's actually, initially at least, a very oddly comfortable sort of thing, like being rocked in the embrace of a bony, gentle grandmother, right? It has that quality to it. And you're on the ship for an indeterminate amount of time, a few minutes, a few months, but you start to have a sensation of like, okay, I know how to control the ship. I know how to make it go here or go there. Even though it feels like it's unerringly moving towards something, you have the ability to make adjustments, to make it go a little to the left, a little to the right, a little bit of pitch, a little bit of yaw, right? Just going around the table, at what point do you discover that like you can actually control the movement of the ship to some degree? How do you know it? What way do you experience it? Whoever wants to go first.
For Scum, I think it's that at some point the silvery quality of the air sort of takes form, and he can see strands of silver rush past him at some points. And he interprets that as commands of the wind telling him to try and grab the silver out of the air. And when he does that, when he goes for the strands, the ship moves slightly to the left, slightly to the right.
Yeah, I like that. Korkuluk or Osto, anything to add?
I think
Yeah. Sorry, take.
Osto is spending the time kind of just sitting and thinking, and his mind keeps going back to the Huntsman's Manor, actually. And as he's thinking on it and thinking about their travel there, the ship feels like it's turning, like he's maybe turning it back towards there. And when he realizes it, he stops and kind of stares really hard at the floor ahead.
Yeah.
I am still very concerned about all the scrimshaw and what's written in here and how this is sort of a mythological ship that I'm finally aboard. And I'm carrying in my rucksack this bear skull that Osto has some opinions about. And on, as I'm analyzing the scrimshaw, I kind of realized like, oh, it doesn't say, like left, right on the rudder. It says up, down. And I'm like, okay, like in the directions a little more. But every now and then I pull out the bear skull and kind of like sniff it, try and get something going with it, set it down, and I can just see Osto on the other end of the ship, like looking at me like, oh my God, this guy. Like
Does the skull maybe smell of one of the smells that one of the smokes that came from the ship?
Yeah, Brian, what do you think? It's up to you.
That's good. At the moment, I'm playing for just a little bit of maybe temporary antipathy between Korkuluk and Osto, and so the notion of the bear skull having a sort of burned hair smell that reminds Osto of sort of lackadaisical feelings regarding his brother. And I'm just kind of picturing on board a ship, tight quarters for indeterminate amount of time, and how can I make it inconvenient by pulling out this bear skull and doing the kind of a last poor Yorick, but I miss my bear friend back home. And, there's wind tracing through. Somehow I've got to find my own happiness here. And I'm doing it very much at the expense of Osto.
Osto, thoughts?
He just watches with kind of like increasing creases between his eyes as he just shakes his head and just doesn't speak to him, keeps his distance.
We are in a new set. The set is called the Gossamer Void. The set goal: safely dock the bone ship and enter the palace. Editha walks up to you at one point when you're on the top deck of the ship, Osto, and she says, I feel as if I have been in this place on this ship for minutes, but also years somehow. Is that your feeling too?
Yeah, very much that.
A little bit more about her. She wears the leather armor of Kingsguard archers, except she has very conspicuously removed the embroidered markings of the Kingsguard. So you can see the shape of it, but just what was embroidered there is not there anymore, right? And she has her crossbow, of course, a head full of, I think, like thick red hair. And thick red hair, dark skin, very tough, serious person. She says, I've been seeing something periodically. I don't know if you've seen it. And she takes you to the kind of the edge of the ship, the railing there, and she's kind of points down. She says, "Several times I have glimpsed that thing. Do you see it?" And if you look down, you will see what appears to be like a single large eye swirling with purple energy and a great toothy maw. And this creature, as more of it comes into view, is titanic in size. It's very big. It has large pincher hands and a sort of whip-like, snake-like body. And it appears to be swimming in this gossamer void, in this silvery void, clearly watching you. But whenever it starts to sort of get close, the ship makes an adjustment and moves away, keeping distance between you and this creature. What do you say?
Do you think it's like the fish in this ocean?
That is certainly a very large fish. That's bigger than any Leviathan or Balandrakir I've ever heard of. And I do not like the way it looks at us so intentionally. But the ship seems to know to avoid it.
As long as it keeps doing that, I'll be happy.
Scum, perhaps you've had a chance to look at your work periodically, or to at least pay attention to your work as the ship is moving through the silvery void. And you'll notice that essentially where you had to make the repairs, the scrimshaw is either not there because you had to use other bones, or it's messed up in some way. And as the ship makes adjustments, it's leaving like a little trail, almost a silvery rope sort of emanating from the general location of where you made your repairs. And that silvery rope is getting longer and longer as it just sort of floats behind you.
Corkadek. Being an antiquarian, do you know anything about this? I mean, it seems sort of dangerous, doesn't it?
Yes, one doesn't want to leave a silver trail through the aether. It tethers your soul and shows exactly where you are.
That's what I thought. Maybe we should try to cut it off some way.
Or give it a second false trail.
How would you want to go about doing that? I was just thinking of climbing up to the mast and using my dagger to maybe try and cut the rope.
Oh, maybe I'm picturing this differently. I'm picturing something emanating from the ship, but not a literal rope.
It's somewhere in between that, I think. I'm actually imagining it on the like lower hull, like you have to climb down, like down. It looks like a silvery rope. It's emanating. It is attached, but maybe not physically. It's both.
Or we could just leave it there and maybe nothing will happen.
Osto, you will become aware that this titanic creature with crab claws that is periodically rising up out of the ether and watching you, it turns its purple eye to that silvery rope. and reaches out and just misses it. The ship makes an adjustment. What do you do?
So he gets tenser, like his hands on the edge of the ship get tighter as he sees it reaching up, and then seeing what it's reaching for, he turns to the others. Could he hear their initial conversation? Were they close enough?
I don't know if you heard it, but you're aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, he's going to approach the others and say, there's something down there, and it is trying to grab that silvery thread that we're leaving behind us. I don't think we want that to happen.
See, the way I see it, there's two options for us. Just press ahead and hope that we find the Rime Palace before the creature catches us, or one of us must go down and cut the rope.
Another possibility, as a mannequin, if there's one thing we're good at, it's mimicry. But if there's a second thing I'm good at, it's obfuscation. I think I can build a second silvery rope, but I'm gonna need some more smoke from both of you.
I like it.
You mean you want us to share more secrets? More?
It's for the good of the crew.
From Aditha as well, or just the two of them? From Aditha as well, or just the two of them?
Sure, let's pitch Aditha in for a stronger ethereal rope decoy.
Aditha says, I have no qualms about this. I barely know any of you. When I was in training at the academy to serve in the King's Guard, I nearly washed out. I was drinking a lot then, not taking life too seriously. But failure, washing out of the King's Guard Academy, was not an option. And so, let's just say, I made a well-timed, well-placed threat against the person responsible for giving me my marks, and I managed to make it through. Now, lest you think I was not qualified to be on the King's Guard, let me assure you that I am a crack shot. I just don't like all their rules and regulations.
What more could I tell you?
What color is the smoke, Brian?
I need silver smoke from each of you.
So these are all silver. Okay, good.
You got to make it be silver somehow. By the way, I'm kind of looking at my skill in mimicry, but also I'm kind of trying to spellbend a little bit here with my rituals of mask and scarecrow ritual to kind of, if this makes sense, create a silvery construct that drifts away, and hopefully this purple sort of serpentine being chases.
I love that. Let's keep making that silver thread, though. Osto and Scum, share.
There's something I've kept to myself for years that I've never shared, even with my family, even with my wife. I don't know if it's appropriate to share that story now, but seeing as we have little choice, the land I come from beyond the sea, has been at war for decades and decades. And I don't know if you've ever known hunger, and I mean true hunger, the one that twists your insides for days because you haven't had loaf of bread or just a block of cheese to say to you. But I have. And it just so happens that one day, after a particularly lucky haul, I managed to scrounge up some fruits and some vegetables, and I happened upon a child sitting by the side of the road. And I could have easily shared my treasures with him. But at the time, I was just thinking of feeding my children, feeding my wife, and, well, to be honest, feeding myself. So I shamelessly pulled up my hood and walked past the child without giving me anything.
Very nice.
As this is going on, Korkalik is sitting kind of cross-legged on the deck and taking these tales of woe and kind of braiding them in the way that so many mariners do, forming a longer rope of experiences.
Love it. Osto.
Osto, I think he'd try firing off some little, like, I stole fruit from one of the other orphans. I stole her toy, but then seeing nothing happen, he said, I ate someone when I was first turned. It was confusing and scary, and I think I lost myself for a while, and I was in the forest, and I was hungry like you said, Scum. And there was a man, I think he was picking mushrooms, and I was so hungry, I was angry, and he tasted good. And sometimes I dream about that, and I wake up hungry.
Editha takes a couple steps to the left. Let's do the roll. Risk roll. We know what you're trying to accomplish here. I think I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen if this goes wrong. I think the creature catches up to you or attacks, or otherwise it's going to be a problem. I don't even need any other suggestions unless somebody just has a really good one. And dice, mimicry, obfuscation, I'll take both. So you get a light die there. And devil's bargains. This is where it could get interesting. Who has a thought for devil's bargain?
The Bear Skull Falls?
Interesting.
Go
ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking that no matter what happens, another creature comes along. Maybe not the same as the one currently trying to grab at us, but something else. Lured in.
I would say that no matter what, you can't take the bone ship back. Those are your options.
All those just to gain a light die?
You can reject them. You can reject them and just take your your single light die. You can add dark die later if you wish.
I think let's try a single light die here.
Go for it.
Ooh, a 3.
That's fail, which means the creature is going to catch you. Would you like to add a dark die and try again?
Definitely, yes.
Risk 1/1.
So am I to describe more of how I'm risking my mind or body?
No, we'll describe it after the roll is resolved. Just go ahead and add a dark die. Risk 1/1. See how it goes.
6 light, 5 dark.
6 lights both counts. Success. Describe how you get away.
In a way, I feel like this was the moment Korkalik was built for. The learning how to fabricate and refabricate and mimic and obfuscate and sort of an understanding of mythology, like to sit and be aboard a bone ship braiding, which is essentially the essence of sailing. How do you build a strong sailing vessel without braiding strong fibers to hold the parts together? And to make a false braid and to coil it up with these beautiful sort of hot, steamy truths from various people of their darker sides, taking these silvery, steamy braids, create a coil and heave that over the edge of the ship, and it just casts out in that elegant sort of unspiraling arc. And then I turn to everybody else and I just go.
Indeed, indeed. Per the devil's bargain. Oh no, you didn't take a devil's bargain, did you? So you're clean. It's a clean success. You arrive at the Rime Palace. You see it in the distance first. It's an elegant marble edifice that hangs over the void like a collection of stalactites or like icicles, right? A palace that hangs in space with towers that come down in points. And the void has changed. It's like beneath the ship is the starry sky. You see stars beneath you, and the starlight beneath you illuminates the Rime Palace with a sort of bluish white glow. And the ship knows that's where it's supposed to go. Its energy changes as it comes into sight. It's more anxious, like it wants to get there. And I think that's where we will end the session for today. Let's go ahead and do stars and wishes. Stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, bits of role play, scenes, monsters, games, whatever, like any moments, whatever you want to say, as much as you want to say. Wishes are things that you hope to see next time. And so I'll kick off by saying, as a star, I thought the role play with all three of you was very, very good. And I feel like we learned a lot about the characters, which is a little unusual in a first session, but and especially with two characters who are so well established, but I felt like I learned even more. So that was great. And star for this module or this incursion. I really like this incursion. This incursion is fun. It's got such a nice vibe, and the way it plays with the theme of fragility is really, really strong. And so I had a good time with that. Because it interprets fragility in multiple ways, which I think is really enjoyable. So, and for wishes, I do hope we get to see the other characters next week. I think that would be great. To see how you find them would be interesting. And I'm also I'm just very excited for you all to get to the actual palace. The palace is a very interesting setting, and so that'll be very enjoyable, I think. Yep. So whoever wants to go next with stars and wishes, by all means.
Stars, I'd say, yeah, I really enjoyed seeing everyone and also participating in the kind of character development stuff. That's really fun. Stars as well to our lucky goblin who saw us through some fights that I thought would spill at least a little blood. So well done, and welcome again, Arthur.
Thank you.
Wishes and kind of star, I guess. I really like seeing the kind of more lighter fantasy elements of trophy here, like with the silvery void and all that. That's really cool, and so I hope to see more of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different vibe, right? It's a more mystical, fantastical, high fantasy trophy, which I think is really intriguing for sure.
For me, so for my stars, I'd say I love the session overall, and I'll be a bit selfish because I really like how Scum came out. I had no actual idea where I wanted to take this when I created him, and I'm very happy with the result. So, and yeah, I really like the role-playing bits and how we got to learn a lot about the characters. And for my wishes, I hope to see the Fate, plain and simple. just curious to see how they're written in the incursion, what form they take, what powers they have, that sort of thing.
Awesome, thank you.
I loved the addition of Scum. Arthur, your character is fabulous, and the fortune of dice rolls gave this kind of character who is a novice who's very, very lucky or good. One of the two. I also love that last sort of ritual of this either I managed to cajole out of everybody else another dark secret without revealing any more of mine. In that sense of give me the fragility, I can work with it. That really seemed to play into the theme better than I'd hoped. In terms of wishes, I'm curious about Editha and how this plays out. Are we going to have to share part of the gold with her, or is she going to go out in a dramatic flame of glory? I don't know. And in that I never actually expected the ritual to work. It seemed like the right thing to do in finding an injured person. I didn't expect that we were going to have this extra party coming along.
Yeah, I'll give a bonus star for the that whole moment with the ritual was really fun. With the healing ritual or the rewind ritual, because I did not know it was going to happen. I did know that per the devil's bargain, something had to happen. And I had promised you that like rewinding so far was going to have big implications, right? Like that's a big thing to do. And so I guess it's a star for myself, but like I like what it came up with, sort of like echoing like here's this ancient place, here's a little bit of ancient history kind of at your doorstep, and just that, I don't know, I kind of liked the drama of it and the heavy metal nature of it, of like this thing is happening now, suddenly there's a cult, we're in the middle of it, and that's what do we do, right? You know, that was pretty fun. And I think that's kind of the power of the game, right? Because like there's this, you are you're constantly thinking about possibilities and like ways to do things. And for me, I'm always like keeping the environment in my mind's eye, like what does this scene look like and what does that mean for the die rolls? And so like to me it was like, okay, big pile of bones, ritual, something is happening here or happened here, and so let's see that, right? So that was really for me, that was really an enjoyable, and it was one of those classic trophy moments because like no one anticipated it, right? Like it just came out of nowhere, so like that was pretty fun. Okay, well, so thank you all so much. I'm gonna stop the recording.